Phil, thank you very much, and Philip and everybody else who's contributed to the publication, which I happily was able to read before the event. It is an excellent piece of work, as always. I mean, actually, the quality of the evidence that we are given as shadow ministers is first rate from Labour business in general, and on this topic as well. And my background is as somebody who was self-employed for many years. My wife and I set up a business from that basis, which is what a lot of people do actually, start off as sole traders and grow a business. My wife still runs a business. She employs freelance contractors in the training and development sector who are going to get caught up in this if they haven't already, and I think it's a timely reminder of a challenge, and the way that the public sector has imposed this across the board without taking the time or effort. I mean, I'm afraid it's typical of what this government does. They come up with something without thinking through and without being prepared to try things out first on a small scale, and then they won't review things, and that is not the way to develop or implement successful policy over any period of time. Your report, Philip, I think identifies very worrying problems in the National Health Service and in Network Rail are the two that spring to mind from reading it, about the shortage of workforce that this will create, in addition to some of the other problems around Brexit in the NHS and the difficulties of workers from the EU. So it is no wonder we are having increasing problems, and to roll this out into the private sector as well is clearly going to exacerbate the challenge. And constituents of mine have raised with me some of the problems of umbrella companies. That's from construction workers, it's from supply teachers, it's from IT workers, and the way that now, instead of having the benefits of being able to deduct your costs as a self-employed freelancer or a self-employed business person, you are now effectively paying more tax than somebody who is employed and taking more risk. Now, this cannot be sustainable and is a significant contributor to that problem of shortage of workforce in those sectors and in others that I haven't mentioned. So the work that Labour Business done is very welcome. The Shadow Treasury team will consider your important recommendations. I know that this is something that Annalise Dodds has spoken on. She spoke in a Westminster Hall debate on it and was grappling with the immense challenges and technical problems that it brings as well. You make an interesting point about the distinction between manual and intellectual work, which is certainly needs consideration. There are clearly different types of self-employed worker. There are different challenges for some of the better paid freelancers who historically have been in better paid sectors compared to the gig economy and the much harsher regime and more difficult challenges of surviving in bogus or forced self-employment. But they're all lumped in together, and it's all part of the challenge of how do we provide proper support on the one hand, how do we have a taxation system on the other, and make sure we get it right. And I think we're going to need a sector-by-sector approach, and you're right about that, which is one of your recommendations. But look, and you've mentioned the loan charge as a consequence of IR35. Isn't it interesting that it's the loan charge that's got all the attention, and this hasn't? And that's the thing that Tory MPs have raised as well as Labour ones, rather than this problem. So I'm really pleased you've raised it. There's £3 billion in extra tax that the government thinks they're going to raise, and that really tells you what's going on here, doesn't it? And that's the thing that they're most interested in. And they're ignoring the fact that actually, if you undermine the economy and public services as a result, there's a consequence for the public realm and taxes as well. So they've not considered this in the round. It needs a proper review. This is an excellent piece of work. Can I just thank you for what you've done, and I'm sure my colleagues in Shadow Treasury team will pick it up and take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Because Bill's got to go in 15 minutes, does anybody have a direct question for Bill at this moment? If you do, put your hand up now, otherwise we can take general questions at the end. Yes.
Thank you. The small business taxation, I run a small business of 40 million turnover. What are Labour's plans to make the situation where I have the same marginal tax rate as Google?
You're not offshore, are you?
I think Phil's just given you some tax planning advice there to adopt on. Yeah, and you can't do a sweetheart deal like they do with HMRC. I mean, I think it's a disgrace. I think there are a number of things. One is if you're incorporated, reintroducing the small companies rate when we increase the corporation tax rate overall, which is part of the plan. I think the reduction in business rates for many businesses, and I've clearly no idea whether that affects you or not from what you just told me, but that's a part of the piece for manufacturing as well as for retail in particular and our high streets. And I think it's giving greater access to things like R&D tax credits. So, there's a number of things, practical things that are already being offered. But I think it's about partly about improving the economy more generally, making the most of the opportunities in the green economy so that there is more money around, making sure that all parts of the country benefit from the announcements like the one we've had today about electric vehicles, which is going to transform our successful automotive economy in a just transition, and making sure that the economy as a whole benefits. I think that's a key element. So yeah, I think you have to look at the bigger picture as well as the smaller picture, but we're open to suggestion as well. So again, I don't know your details, but
a quick follow-up.
Yeah, go on.
Thank you.
Why not?
I cut to the gym. I run a professional services company. I wasn't very simply my brother who was in another meeting, who was a chartered surveyor, who does survey. We're both family businesses that you could sell, and we just think a good boost to be self-employed and taking the risk of growing is some kind of direct tax sort of break. I've had small rates relief. We're not in manufacturing. We can't get grants. It's basically we earn so much, 21% disappears. Is there some form of planning or thinking in the party to look at that?
Yeah, I think there's a debate about what fair tax is actually. Some people talk about the burden or the price we pay. I don't. I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. Actually, I think it is the wholly responsible and sensible economic way of contributing to the infrastructure and public services that help us get to where we are, isn't it? And business has to pay its fair. The bigger issue is how do we get Google to pay their fair share, perhaps. To go back to your question, and I think this is where international cooperation comes in. I think it's where things like online sales taxes have a role rather than property tax. So I suspect it's about levelling the playing field on tax between them and you, and increasing our collection, reducing avoidance. That's probably the answer, rather than promising you much of a tax cut.
Thank you, Bill.